Today we're getting into the latest Tesla news, including the all-new longer-range Model Y, updates about the Tesla bot, the tax credit possibly being eliminated, and more, so let's get into it. First up today, Tesla has posted a new update about their Optimus robot, and as always, it shows some things that many interpret as slow, while also demonstrating very impressive progress. The Optimus account posted, "Trying to be useful lately," and the video details a number of things. We can see the robot using its right arm to sort 4680 cells one by one, and it says, "Optimus has been busy learning useful tasks lately." Here, its end-to-end neural network was trained to sort battery cells, running on the FSD computer inside. They also demonstrated recovering from failures entirely autonomously, but Tesla further showed a really cool peek into data collection for Optimus. They say, quote, "The training data was collected via human teleoperation," and they show multiple humans with VR headsets and tracking suits training robots for the tasks that we see it doing. They say Optimus is being tested at one of their factories and that human interventions are decreasing. It is also regularly walking around the office in increasing distances. Seeing it walking, even though slow, is quite impressive. Overall, with all of this, the main thing that impresses people is the timeline. Tesla has made great strides in just a couple of years, and Milan Kovac, an engineer for the Tesla bot, added more details on X, saying, quote, "This neural net is running entirely end-to-end, meaning that it only consumes video coming from the bot's 2D cameras, as well as onboard proprioceptive sensors, and produces joints control sequences directly. It runs entirely on the bot's embedded FSD computer, powered by the onboard battery. It is designed such that a single neural net can perform multiple tasks as we add more diverse data to the training process." While not being perfect yet and still a little slow, we're seeing increasingly high success rates with less frequent misses. He then adds that further work is ongoing to make it move faster, as well as dealing with more adverse terrains, all without sacrificing the human-like nature of it. We're also focusing on repeatability across the fleet, training the neural net to deal with dynamic calibration and small bot-to-bot variants. Regarding the future of this robot, there is a lot of progress to come, and Elon talked about a few specifics. For one, the new Optimus hand later this year will have 22 degrees of freedom. Currently, it has 11. Furthermore, quote, "The actuators will move almost entirely into the forearm, just like how humans work." As for how much this robot is doing the task autonomously, some people got a bit confused since they showed the humans training the robots, but he clarified, yes, this is fully autonomous, no human in the loop anywhere. The Optimus project is a very interesting one to watch. AI growth is huge right now, and we are seeing compelling competitors working on their own humanoid robots, so this will be a very fun space to watch. Some think a robot like this is 5 years away from being consumer available, whereas Elon has talked about Tesla being able to sell this sometime in 2025. Next up today, some very big news for the Tesla Model Y in the US. Just last week, we saw Tesla finally introduce the Quicksilver color for this car in the US. It was available on what were the only long-range trims of this car at the time, long-range all-wheel drive and performance, and not available on the standard range Model Y. That standard range Model Y is something Tesla introduced a few months ago, finally, and it helped bring the base cost of the Model Y down a lot. That car was always in a bit of a weird spot in the US, since Tesla didn't introduce it for a while, then introduced it. But Elon said the range didn't meet Tesla's standard of excellence. They got rid of that, and then eventually they did bring it back, but with a 260-mile range instead of the previous 240-mile range. This raised some questions as to the battery pack, and now with recent changes to Tesla's lineup, we have learned that Tesla was secretly selling these customers long-range cars. They were just software locked. This past week, Tesla finally introduced the all-new long-range rear-wheel drive Model Y. This is a trim they originally announced for this car back in 2019, but it truly never came to market. The only way to get a long-range Model Y was to upgrade to all-wheel drive as well. That's great, but for many customers, that second motor actually isn't necessary, and they'd rather have the increased range of a single motor. Elon Musk announced this car, saying, "The standard Tesla Model Y now has a 320-mile range. Although it is rear-wheel drive, the precision of Tesla's electric motors means it still has great traction on snow and ice with all-season tires." As we can see on Tesla's website, that trim now has replaced the standard range Model Y, but with a slight price increase of $2,000. So now the base price of the Model Y is up to $44,990, but the car comes with 60 more miles of range standard. One thing that somewhat makes sense here too, but is a little frustrating to see, is that the Quicksilver paint option still has not changed. So if you want to get it, you have to upgrade to all-wheel drive for $3,000 extra and pay for the $2,000 paint upgrade. Similarly, if you want 7 seats, you have to upgrade trims. In any case, this rear-wheel drive Model Y gets a 320-mile range, 10 miles higher than the all-wheel drive, the same 135-mile-per-hour top speed, and then a 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds, marking the slowest available Tesla. Upgrading to induction wheels drops the range from 320 down to 295 miles. Worth noting that these are using the new EPA testing standards, so range predictions here should be more accurate than previous years. All the way back in 2019 when I pre-ordered my Model Y, this is the trim I actually ordered, but now 5 years later it's actually coming to market. I think it's a very smart move by Tesla and that this car will be extremely popular. Range is very important to people even if they don't fully really need it, and a $2,000 price bump to take 260 miles up to 320 is well worth it for many. With that said, many customers over the past couple of years purchased a standard range Model Y, and we have now learned that they were actually buying this car. Elon Musk tweeted saying, quote, "The 260-mile range Model Ys built over the past several months actually have more range that can be unlocked for $1,500 to $2,000, gains 40 to 60 miles of range, depending on which battery cells you have, working through regulatory approvals to enable this." So this whole time, Tesla was selling a software-locked version, likely due to battery sourcing. It was probably just easier and cheaper to create a, quote, lower range version of this car that they could sell for less than it was to make and source an entirely different battery pack for production. They have done this in the past a few times, especially with the Model S. It definitely sounds odd at face value, but when an unlock like this is offered, it can make a lot of sense. The interesting thing to keep in mind here is, let's say you have a standard range Model Y, and that they offer a $2,000 upgrade that gets you 60 more miles of range, matching the 320-mile estimate for the long-range rear-wheel drive today. This is a long-range battery, so your advice is going to be that for battery longevity, you should charge to 80% daily and reserve 100% charges for road trips. In practice, that will actually mean that you are daily using 80% of your battery's potential, or 256 miles of it. Versus if you don't pay for that range unlock, you can charge up to your, quote, 100% of around 260 miles each day. So really, this software unlock will only truly benefit those who need to charge to 100% on a semi-regular basis. Once Tesla offers that upgrade, that will definitely be a consideration. Since you only want to charge to 80% each day anyway, is unlocking the full battery necessary for your personal needs. Either way, this is an exciting upgrade for the Model Y, and I still hope to see the return of the standard range version, just with its own actually smaller, hopefully LFP pack in the future. Most of this comes down to scaling and tax credit eligible battery sourcing though. But what do you think of the new long-range rear-wheel drive Model Y? Is it an enticing option for you? For myself, I live in California, so for a future Model Y purchase, rear-wheel drive may be tempting. Slightly more range and a lower price point sounds pretty nice if you don't truly need all-wheel drive. Next up today, the future of Tesla's Supercharger network is in a bit of flux after it was revealed that nearly the entire team behind that program has been let go in a recent round of layoffs. Elon announced that this move would lead to a slowdown in Supercharger expansion, but this move comes as more and more automakers are gaining access to that very network. Ford and Rivian, for example, have recently started shipping dedicated NACS adapters to their customers that allow drivers to plug in and charge at most Superchargers. But now that so many automakers have hitched themselves to the NACS charging standard, it does make you wonder whether Tesla's abrupt change of course has any of them worried. Many automakers made deals with Tesla knowing how involved this team was, and that they would help them out in this transition. So there has been speculation that this could massively impact the future of NACS. Just as every automaker decides to switch to partner with Tesla, Tesla drops that whole team, seemingly dropping a focus on that network. Well, so far all of the major automakers have said that that move doesn't impact their plans for the future. When asked, GM specifically said, "We have nothing new to announce regarding our plans. We are continuing to monitor the situation regarding changes to the Supercharger team and the potential impacts with no further comments or updates at this time." Ford also specified no changes, but of course, many fear that we will start seeing superchargers become more congested and automakers become frustrated that the integration wasn't as seamless as originally promised. It does seem to be a bit of a mess at Tesla right now, especially in this department, which makes sense after 500 people are suddenly let go. Tesla sent out an email to suppliers saying, "As part of this process, we are in the midst of establishing new leadership roles, prioritizing projects, and streamlining our payment procedures. Due to the transitional nature of this phase, we are asking for your patience with our response time." Later in the email, they specify, at this time, please hold on breaking ground on any newly awarded construction projects and planned pre-construction walks. And then they tell them to continue work on active supercharging construction sites. There are a few things in this email that point to how disorganized and sudden this firing was, and it worries many, but it could end up signaling a big shift here. Tesla has licensed their tech, and maybe they will instead be relying on third parties to build out reliable infrastructure. This is definitely an odd move, since it seemed Tesla had paved a very clear path towards dominating EV charging in the US as a whole, but we are already seeing how this is changing. Revel is an electric ride-hailing company, and after Tesla stopped work immediately on 4 sites with 60 charging stalls total in New York City, they are looking to take those over. A Revel spokesperson said, Tesla left some really nice sites on the table. They're essentially ready to go. Those kinds of sites are super rare, and we are actively looking to pursue them. Revel's CEO also commented on Tesla's move in general, saying, while I don't see how it's good for Tesla, letting go of the Supercharger team is great for the rest of the industry. They've burned landlord relationships. They've ceded market share. They've freed up top talent. Revel has already added several new charging sites to our NYC pipeline and is interviewing multiple candidates for key positions. Revel and every other charging operator gained a significant tailwind this week. That's extremely interesting to hear, but Tesla could still find themselves very much in the mix here. While they may not be installing and operating new sites at previously communicated rates, they may still be the provider of the charging equipment for companies who ultimately build sites. We saw this with BP buying $100 million of Tesla charging equipment, so maybe this will become Tesla's focus. Only time will tell, but many fear that supercharging will get worse in the US and worse for cars like the Cybertruck. Next up today, we talk a lot on this channel about EV tax credits. That's because they are something that can help many owners afford their EV, but they are also constantly changing around. For a long time, Teslas were disqualified from EV tax credits due to a manufacturer cap. Then the tax credit changed, making their cars eligible, but in the process it got stricter as far as battery sourcing goes. This year the tax credit became available at the point of sale, which is a very big thing, but of course it also got stricter. The Model Y entirely qualifies, but only the performance Model 3 does. And we see this with many other US automakers and their EVs, much less qualified than you may expect. That's why some changes may be on the way soon to loosen these rules, but at the same time, a new bill has been introduced to eliminate the credit entirely. This bill is called the Elite Vehicles Act, and it aims to eliminate the clean vehicle credit for new, used, and commercial EVs. This bill seems motivated by the oil industry and makes 2 statements that aren't fully accurate. It asserts that these credits are a giveaway to the wealthy, even though there are clear income caps to qualify for an EV tax credit, and that these credits allow Chinese EVs into the US. In fact, the biggest reason so few EVs qualify today is because of strict battery sourcing requirements, keeping foreign entities of concern out of the EV battery supply chain. In any case, Electrek was quick to point out that if this passes, it could all but hand the EV market to China. China has a huge lead in EV manufacturing and consumer demand. In fact, Tesla really sees Chinese automakers as their main competition. So the elimination of this credit could result in most US-made EVs coming in at prices $7,500 higher, and companies not finding themselves incentivized to move battery production over to the US. Of course, it's very complicated, and some would very much argue that tax credits shouldn't exist at all, and competition should ultimately be what makes EVs win out. In the meantime, we'll have to see what happens with this bill, and it seems that rules could be getting a bit less strict, allowing cars like the long-range Model 3 to qualify for the credit once again. That would be great news for Tesla and other automakers as EV battery manufacturing scales up in the US. Last up today, some updates from other automakers. While Honda has so far been very slow in jumping into the EV race, they have just announced some investments that signal they are making big changes to their strategy. The legacy automaker will be investing $11 billion towards building 4 dedicated EV and battery factories in Canada. According to their plans, this investment will enable them to output over 240,000 EVs for the US and Canadian markets per year. Starting in 2028, they will begin construction on the factories that will comprise their dedicated EV supply chain. When completed, this could reduce manufacturing costs by as much as 20% for the company. This move comes a year after Honda announced a $700 million investment into converting 3 of their Ohio plants into the center of their future EV battery production. Honda started sales of their Prologue EV last year, and once they can get these facilities up and running, then it could become eligible for the full $7,500 EV tax credit. Honda is a very popular legacy brand, and if they can start shipping a line of affordable electric options, then they could quickly become a competitive option in the EV marketplace. It's great to see brands that held out so long in EVs realize that they have to make these investments if they want to stay competitive. Honda is currently holding on to their hydrogen fuel cell ambitions, but combined with EVs, they are planning on abandoning gas-powered vehicles by 2040. Maybe if they see success in scaling these cars, then we can see them push these goals even further forward. While a lot of automakers are racing to get increasingly affordable EVs to market right now, some automakers are going even further in the opposite direction. The Chinese automaker Zeekr is expanding across Asia and into Europe with 4 current luxury vehicle options. Their second vehicle, the 009 Minivan, was designed to comfortably carry larger families in a very luxurious package. That car has been doing well in China so far, but Zeekr has just released its newest version, the 009 Grand. The Grand is an all-new deluxe version of the 009 with some truly luxurious and flashy new features. This 4-seater vehicle features a handmade stainless steel grille that has been hand-polished for 30 hours, as well as similarly made wheels and polished Himalayan marble interior. The 2 back seats feature 12-zone support and 24 different adjustments that should give you a comfortable way to watch the built-in 43-inch screen in the rear cabin with a full surround sound speaker system. Passengers will also have access to a rear mini fridge, UV sterilizer, and near pitch black dimmable windows. This luxurious car can hit 0 to 60 in just 3.9 seconds and is rated for 436 miles of CLTC range. This vehicle also comes equipped with a full LiDAR setup and camera suite for their smart assist driving features. This car is currently available in China for the equivalent of $109,000. Many cars are offered at a lower equivalent price in China, so if this model makes it to any other markets, then we should expect it to sell for much higher. While many of us are very eagerly awaiting news of upcoming affordable EVs, it's undeniably interesting to see what crazy features are being put into the most luxurious electric cars out there. As the EV marketplace becomes even further saturated, Kia and Genesis are rolling out some pretty hefty incentives to bring in new customers. Genesis, the luxury sub-brand of Hyundai, has been growing quite rapidly since launching their first electric option, the EV60, a few years ago. They have since added the GV70 and G80 vehicles to their lineup and sold 6,403 vehicles in the US last year. That represents a 282% EV growth over 2022, and they outsold both Lexus and Lucid. Still, the company is looking to expand sales even further by offering $7,500 in retail bonus cash if you purchased a GV60 or 70. For now, this is the largest incentive the automaker has ever given on either of these vehicles. Factoring in this discount, the GV60 now starts at $45,850 and the GV70 at $60,300. When the Kia EV9 begins production next month out of Georgia, they are fully expecting that vehicle to be eligible for the full $7,500 EV tax credit. Until then, the company is shipping in units from Korea and offering a $7,500 rebate in the meantime to cover the expected tax incentive. That brings the starting price of this vehicle down to $48,895. As the market grows increasingly saturated with EV options, we should start to see companies increase incentives like this to get you to purchase one of their cars. Scaling is also very important here. While we are seeing a lot of options, a lot of these aren't fully available at scale and don't actually need to be yet until we're seeing the sales grow for all of them. It's great to see these cars dropping in price as it brings more electric options into affordability for a lot more customers. That's all the latest Tesla news for today, so in the meantime, if you want to see the latest for EV tax credit changes on the Model 3, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.